science and is on a need-to-know basis.
We work for a highly funded yet unofficial government agency.
When out on the field, make sure to utilize all appropriate safety gear and equipment.
Science and technology have advanced at such an exponential rate, it may be way beyond our ability to regulate and control them.
There's something out there, in the dark, and it's moving.
Hello friends, and welcome back to another video of Hidden Genres. Now, I was having a hard time picking what this next one would be. And for a while, I was like super stumped. I was thinking of different horror genres with it being Halloween, but I ended up coming down to one that I really liked. One that I've been thinking about for a while, ever since a particular movie came out. The genre I would like to introduce to you today is entities and institutions. Now, it was hard coming up with a name. I'm just gonna admit that right now. I was stumped. I honestly, and I'm not even sure if I'm like truly like set on entities and institutions, but I thought it was the best way to describe what this genre is all about. It's a mix of fantasy, sci-fi, even biblical themes, all the way to horror and thriller and mystery. It's a culmination of three big themes, three key points that make this genre stand out. And there are variations of this, but the three key points are that of a secret organization that is looking into the second part, which is anomalies and entities that exist and threaten or have some kind of power or estrangement to our own world and reality. And the third part, which of course is the morally gray actions of both parties. And what is the purpose of them? There are tons of themes throughout these stories, but first, let's talk about some examples. We need to know what kinds of examples exist, and you'll probably recognize them off the bat because they've become extremely popular in recent years. Now, the examples of these stories consist of things like SCP, Backrooms, Cabin in the Woods, Control, the video game series, Men in Black, X-Files, The Magnus Archives, Torchwood, Fringe, even Pacific Drive, and Monarch from the Godzilla series. There was another one with Gravity Falls kind of dipping its toes into this genre. You like how I did it like Donkey from Shrek.
Yeah.
So, Fiona, tell us about where you
but sorry. But it I'm sorry, I'm still wait. But Gravity Falls isn't quite in that realm. It only does a little bit. There is a bit of the morally gray concepts, especially between, if you've seen the series, between two brothers, mainly Uncle Ford, which is what Dipper and Maple know them as, is Uncle Ford and their other uncle, Grunkle Stan. But there's also the entities and the anomalies that take place in the series. And the governmental stuff, there's like a government society there, but it's mainly with Dipper and Maple, you know, the mystery twins and their mystery shack and all of that. But it wasn't enough to make it a part of the list. So I wanted to give it as an honorable mention to everybody, and if anyone has a valid argument as to why it should belong in the series, please leave in the comments below. And I would love to discuss it more because I'm still discovering what hidden genre Gravity Falls is. So get back to me on that. But either way, this is a peculiar and interesting genre to me. It's existed only for a couple of years. In fact, it's young for horror, it's familiar for sci-fi, and it's kind of strange in the realm of fantasy. But either way, it's a scary, curious, and fascinating genre. Some of the things that make it, fascinating is the fact that it focuses on the tropes of a government organization trying to contain, control, protect us from, or destroy these strange anomalies and entities. In Men in Black, it's aliens, of course, that are from all across the galaxy, and that could threaten or cause problems here on Earth. In SCP, the foundation for SCP is that they are securing, containing, and protecting us from strange entities and anomalies that they're still trying to figure out how to handle and keep us away from. And in most cases, they're trying to destroy. Then there's things like X-Files, where it's a part of the FBI, but it's a kind of small branch off of the FBI, where it's taking place with detective files that are still being solved. And I know not all of my terms are going to be correct. I've seen the show, but I'm gonna suck at terms that have to do with the FBI, so forgive me on that. But the X-Files focuses on them dealing with entities or anomalies or unsolved cases that tend to do with the paranormal, extraterrestrial, or anything in between. Then there are things like Control, where the organization is trying to keep back these strange anomalies that are causing problems all across the world. And it just keeps going on and on. Some of the more I suppose dipping their toes in kind of stories tend to be things a little bit more on the lines of Monarch from the Godzilla series, or the Monsterverse as it's also known as, and as well as Pacific Drive. Pacific Drive has the backdrop that this organization kind of failed, and there's remnants of it in the reality they're in, but it focuses more on the anomaly that's causing problems across the land, and you have to drive around in your car and fix it and constantly have to repair it and modify it in order to travel across terrain that is affected by this anomaly. What really has come out most recently among all these stories was the SCP storyline. It's a conglomerate of internet ideas and entities that people have shared across the board. There are the famous ones like Shy Guy, or SCP-3000, which is the long eternal serpent or something like that. And then there's also entities like the statue that if you look away from it, it will come at you and break your neck. There are tons, and I don't know all of them by heart, but I remember a lot of them, and I was super into them for the longest time. I still am, but the craze has kind of gone down because I have so many interests in stories, so it's always moving. But I think that's kind of why we like this genre, or at least one of the reasons, is because there's so much variety. It's interesting to go into something like SCP, where there's redacted information, but some of the information is readable. We like kind of uncovering and discovering more. We see it when we are gossiping with friends that we're like, oh really? There's more to the story? Tell me more. And it's the same with this genre. Entities and institutions is kind of like gossip. It's that mysterious folklore, urban legend, wrapped in a bucket conspiracy theory box. Where we like to dive into it because there's so much to unravel. It is our own personal mystery that we can solve as a group, as a collective across the internet. And Backrooms is no different. It came right behind SCP, introducing also the idea of more anomaly than entities, and the entities simply exist in this infinite reality of spaces and endlessness. And it adds to both fear and our constant curiosity of this unknown. There are a lot of themes to dive into, but the few that I thought were most interesting and compelling were the ideas of chaos versus control, or preparation versus aversion. Because constantly, we see in these different stories, there's a question of maybe the entities or anomalies taking place should be left alone, and if we leave them alone, perhaps we're safer. But at the same time, if we don't prepare, secure, if we're not ready, what happens when these things do break out and we haven't done anything to fight back? Really, the weapon in these storylines is knowledge. Knowledge and research are the weapon they use against the entities and anomalies. I think another aspect to why we like this genre is because we like having control. chaos most times, or limitless aspects of the unknown, make us scared. And so having just enough of control and power over that makes us feel better, and it helps us to sleep at night. And it makes life more interesting. So all in all, there's a lot to this genre. From the unraveling conspiracies of a secret organization to the wondrous, frightening, and endless possibilities of entities and anomalies, and the morally gray areas of the possibility of why and what we should do about it, are constantly around our fascination. This genre is one of the youngest fictional genres to date. Full of science fiction and horror and thriller aspects, it is still growing. And perhaps one day the name might be more defined, and I might even have to change it. But for now, let us enjoy this frightening and endless genre that is still growing, simply known as entities and institutions. My friends, thank you for watching this video. It was a little bit clunky in the recording, I have to admit, because it was a hard genre to pinpoint. It's so new and so young that it's still being defined. But I know it's a new fictional genre that has its own niche in our hearts and across the internet. So for now, if you have any more thoughts about this genre, please leave them in the comments below. And if you like this video, like and subscribe. And if you enjoyed this type of story, I have a few stories that you might be interested in from my series, Tales of the Verse. It's an immersive audio story series, and there's going to be more seasons to it. So you better catch up before I start making more. But as well, I want to also give a huge shout out to my friend Brant, who helped me to be able to figure this story and this genre out. And as well, I thank you to all of my recent new subscribers and those who have been giving support so far to the channel. There's a lot more to come and a lot more stories to dissect, create, to help you immerse yourselves, imagine, and be inspired from the countless stories that come from the transcendent worlds. So my friends, I hope to see you again, because I'll be seeing you on the other side of the gates.